as part of my jobs, being a receptionist, my job was to take care of the mail. And of course, every day the UPS guy would show up and he'd like get the mail, and he was kind of cute. And, we kind of had this like office flirtation going on. And one day he actually asked me out, and I remember being like, no. I was like playing it coy a little bit, but then like he actually asked me out like another time. I was like, and then I started thinking, I was like, you know what, just go out with him. Like, what's the big deal? Like, you should like open it, like expand, like don't be judgmental, whatever. Anyway, I went out with him. The date was terrible. And I spent most of the date actually like in the bathroom, and I was just like waiting for it to end. I was really young. I was not a very seasoned dater of guys. But anyway, he was very nice, and we ended the date, and I basically avoided him for the rest of the summer. Every time he'd come, because like it's funny because there's a certain time of day that he shows up. All of a sudden, like my intern, the woman who was helping me, I was like, do you mind, like, you take care of the mail? I'm just gonna go, like make a copy at the copier machine or whatever. So it was just, I guess it's like not the worst story in the world, but it does teach you that lesson of like, anyone you work with is like potential for, that uncomfortable feeling after a date, like this didn't work out and now we have history. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Workplace Weirdness, the non-HR HR podcast where we dive into the strangest office situations and most awkward workplace dramas. I'm your host, Maya Kadar-Kowalski, and I'm a former chief culture officer and head of people. And I've seen and heard it all, so truly no judgments. So let's get real and explore the cringy, confusing, and chaotic side of office life. Today, we're talking about relationships at work and the future of online dating apps with Loop founder and CEO, Lian Zucker. Loop is a matchmaking app where singles ask their friends for intros and non-singles play matchmaker. Previously, Lian was head of product and the first employee at 30 Madison, the company behind Keeps.com. She held several other product roles, including VP product at Connie Health and senior product manager at Jet.com. Before that, she started her career in investment banking at Evercore, where she worked on mergers and acquisitions in the tech sector. So from finance to product at early stage companies and to the founder of a matchmaking app, it's wonderful. I love it. What a journey. I'm so happy to have you here, Lian.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Recently, I saw your post on LinkedIn about how your parents met and how that sort of influenced the whole development of, I guess, of the Loop app. So why don't you tell us that story?
So I made that post because we found the first photo of my mom and grandmother, my father's mother, together. And it's so funny. My parents' story is very much an inspiration behind Loop, as well as my own dating journey. It was very heartwarming to first find that photo and then to post it. But yeah, basically the story is my parents met through a mutual friend of the family. The story goes, they were both distracted, let's say, while the match was recommended with very sound logic. My dad didn't follow up. And my grandmother was this tough woman. I think every entrepreneurial instinct I get really is from her. And she was very persistent, which, by the way, makes for an amazing matchmaker, and refused to take no for an answer. So my dad, when he visited home, would bring laundry, and my grandmother was very kind to do his laundry. She actually wound up putting a slip of paper with "Call Lily" and my mom's phone number in every single shirt and pant pocket. So every time my dad was like rummaging around for cash, he would find this slip of paper. And so he quickly came to the conclusion, I either have to call this Lily or get a new laundry solution. And he, in fact, called my mother. It was a blind date, but it was well-informed based on, shared family backgrounds, shared values, and this feeling of it being, I think that it really helps to go in feeling like there's a meet cute perhaps bigger than yourself, right? In this case, not only his mother, but also this family friend.
Yeah, somebody that you almost have to like report back to. Like, even if it doesn't go well, at least you have to say, I tried or whatever. Like, that somebody is there in the background.
Exactly. And slightly different generation. My dad loved picking up girls from home so that he also got to meet the parents, because he felt like that gave him a lot of perspective into who the person he was dating was.
Very smart.
Which I think is very smart. Honestly, if I can go on a first date with parents, parents, I would. Hot take, probably not a popular one. But yeah, they met and the rest is history. And
thanks to that meeting, we have Loop today. So tell us more about what the app does.
that brings us to Loop, which is the company I founded with my brother. Loop is a matchmaking app. So that's very important. Actually, both my parents are on Loop as matchmakers. Loop is for everyone. You sign up and you indicate if you are just there to set up your friends or if you're single, and will be receiving matches as well. From there, Loop is it's a social network for romantic introductions. And so from there, you build out your network. That makes it really easy to connect with all the friends you have on the app, as well as invite new ones. And then I like explaining it with an example here. So once Maya and I are connected, I can see the people who Maya knows and ask her for introductions, or I can set up my friends with her friends. And so, really what this does is it takes away all social friction from setups. Setups happen in real life, but we're busy. We forget. It's hard. These conversations are hard for a lot of people. And so on Loop, simply by building your network, you create opportunities for friends. And we launched a little over 2 years ago now. Really, really heartwarming that we have over 400 people married after meeting on the app.
I think that's amazing. You haven't been around that long.
We haven't been around that long, and it's really only the beginning. And I think our core hypothesis really is that dating is less of a volume problem than you think, and much more so a problem of trust. When you get a warm introduction from someone you know or from someone in your community, you're much more likely to feel that trust.
Yeah. At least I've heard that ghosting happens, or like you meet up, it's sort of just physical and then like move on.
100%. Listen, there's accountability because there's a person in the middle, kind of like a broker, right? If Maya sets me up, my reputation with Maya is on the line. And so it really encourages, dating apps, they're played out. Many people met on dating apps. I'm not here to poo-poo them. People are represented like cards. There's this illusion of a bottomless pit of options. Swipe a little more to get someone a little better. And then people are plucked out of an ether represented without any context. And so it leads to lack of accountability, ghosting.
So let's say I set you up. You feel accountable to me, but I also feel accountable to you. Like, I'm not going to set you up with just some random person. It has to be somebody who I really think is a good fit. It's like my reputation that's on the line as well. So it kind of is mutual, that accountability.
Definitely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, I love the product and it's wonderful, but I really want to talk to you about what it's like, to run a company. I know it's a small company, it's a startup, but what's it like to be in business with your brother, for instance?
I absolutely love it. My joke is often that the best thing I've done for the company is to convince my brother to build it with me. My brother was not only an engineer, actually he'd become an engineering manager at Meta, but he also had just gotten promoted. And I was like, no, I have an idea and we're going to work on it together. I think, for co-founder relationship, the most important thing really is trust. I mean, you're going to see each other through highs and lows. And my brother and I have had our whole lives really to practice. And Maya, I know that you also worked with a sibling. So
I did. And I do. I work with my brothers on certain projects. And sure, it's like challenging in some certain ways, but it's not, because it's also the person that you really probably know almost you said, your whole life.
Exactly.
And I agree with you that co-founders or teammates need to know how to be able to fight and then figure it out and then go back to doing the work. And I'm sure that siblings kind of have an advantage on that. Like
that elasticity, right? We like bounce back very, very, it's like we know how this is going to end. But yes, I think Adam and I, we're very intellectually similar, but our personalities are quite different. And we bring a very different perspective specifically for dating. Adam has never been on a dating app in his life.
Wow.
He met his girlfriend in college and they're still together. I have the exact opposite experience. I've been on way too many dating apps. And so it helps to have that different perspective tackling the problem. By the way, they're very funny stories. I mean, before we built Loop, I had Adam swipe for me. I even brought Adam along. And so yes, like Loop really can't be any more personal of a product for me specifically.
So like now as you're sort of building out your team and everything, so are you thinking about like the kind of culture that you want to build? And as a sort of newer CEO, how are you kind of tackling the idea of workplace culture, within Loop as a company?
Yes, it's a very good question. We are a growing team. Many members are remote right now. As I think about growing the team, like several things are a focus. So number one, Adam and I are siblings and we have a great sibling dynamic. And I think that's really, really valuable to how we operate. But we're very cognizant to be very professional, right? And to kind of put everyone on a level playing field. That's number one. That's really important. The second thing that's really important is balance between we're working on a problem that is really universal, that every single person has a hot take on dating. And by the way, not only them, but their parents, their sisters, their
grandparents,
siblings or grandparents, right? And so that's both a luxury and a huge challenge in terms of the workplace environment. Like I myself am single and I have like a trove of stories to tell. And I think striking the right balance between, hey, this is a problem that I have faced and it's personal to me. And of course, this is a workplace. And so far, I'm really, really happy with how that all has gone.
Amazing.
And look, we have a culture and processes that work for where we are today.
Right.
And I have no doubt that we'll have to evolve them as we grow and that ultimately it'll be informed not only by my brother and I, but also, or I should say my co-founder and I,
right,
but also the team that we grow into and hire.
Well, I wish you well with that. So now let's move on. I want to ask you what I ask every guest on my show.
Yes.
I need to know, what was your weirdest workplace moment? And it can be in any job, not just at Loop. Let's hear.
A lot of my workplace weirdness kind of come with the territory. I mean, I'm a single girl who's building a matchmaking app, and we're a very early stage company. So this manifests in many different ways and often culminates in people either want me to be their matchmaker or their date. Especially in the early days, my attitude with all these things is I think it's harder and harder for people to be bold. And so I would love to encourage that.
Right. You respect that.
I respect the courage. And then I hope that they respect me when I say yes or no, right? So far, so good. One of my favorite stories, though, is at one event, this guy, so basically the way Loop profiles work is there's a part where you self-report, and then there's a part where you talk about what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in the early days at an event, collaborated with this organization to get the word out about Loop. I met this guy. He was very lovely, out of my age range. I guess I was out of his.
Mm-hmm.
But several hours later, I saw that he asked for an intro to me in the app, and he actually went into the app and changed his age range. I thought that was really sweet. And in many ways, like one of the things that we're solving for with Loop is often you have a checklist and biases, but humans are so much more than checklists, right? And friends and matchmakers can really help you kind of overcome. Actually, we went on the date, and I think he wanted to go on a date with me to hear more about Loop. I don't think it was romantic. Yes.
And now he's an investor. No,
no, he's not. But I hope he finds his person on Loop.
Kind of like the story I told earlier has led to a lot of like awkward conversations afterwards when the date doesn't work out. Like, do you ever have to see these people again? Or
at this point, I'm desensitized.
That's what
I'm desensitized to it at this point. I get asked very often, "Oh, so are you here for market research?" And I'm like, "Well, now I am." No, usually I'm nice about it. These are all that's the thing, is you have to realize these are all well-meaning questions. I get asked, like, did you build this just to find a husband? Do you go into the database? Do you have a God mode for Loop? It's okay. Ask away. I'll answer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think, you're handling it with finesse. Let's put it that way, Thanks for telling us all these wonderful insights and insider stories. So let's move on to the week in work. Before we get to our listener questions, let's stay up to date with the week in work. This is our take on recent trends in the workplace that are changing how we work or how we think about work life. This week, we want to discuss Astronomer, the company that's become world famous because their CEO and CHRO were just caught in an affair via a kiss cam at a Coldplay concert. It sparked 1,000 memes in just a few days. So even though this episode will air in a few weeks, I wanted to discuss it because I think it brings up a lot of questions around why we have so many rules around office relationships, and can HR even follow their own rules, So I just want to hear from you, like, especially, first of all, what's your whole take on the, whatever it's called, Coldplay gate, I think they call it now. I don't know.
It was so funny. By the way, I asked my parents if they'd heard about it, and they were like, of course.
Yeah. My kids were like, of course I know about it. I'm like, okay.
I think my mom is cooler than I am and hears about TikTok trends before I do. She really spends more time on TikTok than I do. But anyways, listen, infidelity is awful. It was a really, memes aside, and I guess to some degree, it's refreshing to see a bit of humor in what is very bad news, but infidelity is inexcusable. I think it's been equally disheartening to kind of see the Schadenfreude involved, a lot of public shaming, and ultimately, their families were wrecked this week.
That's true. So, wow. I mean, that's a different perspective than what I was going to talk about, because, I can't help but seeing it from the HR piece of it. So I'll just
it's inexcusable. It's hypocritical.
Yeah. I mean, so it's interesting. I found it interesting because I felt it was so visceral. Their response was like, oh my God, we did something bad. And it was like so evident to everybody, including
Coldplay, right?
Including Coldplay. He's like, oh, I guess I just did a bad thing.
Right,
That I
you're
like
really shy
in front
or
of
having an
everybody.
affair.
I couldn't help thinking, first of all, again, I don't know a lot about this. I want to like already say like I'm not an expert in the story. I kind of know it like everybody does. It's sort of pop culture kind of knowledge. But it had appeared that somebody from the company, so again, just so you understand, it's the CEO hugging the head of HR. And in the background, there's another woman who apparently came with them to the concert who is from the HR team. So, and she's like, oh my God. So in other words, like, I think she must have known because they are like hugging right in front of her. And then it started like begging the question for me, wait, does all of HR know? Or is this just one friend? And also like, this is a pretty, unsavory kind of tale because why do we as HR not encourage work relationships? Because we don't want someone to feel that they were coerced into a relationship if the person that they're dating is their superior. And in this case, even though I don't think it was that, just because they looked like they were, it looked consensual, but again, looks can be deceiving. It just felt like it was almost like a known secret within the office and like it was allowed. And also, of course, like if the head of HR is doing something like that, it's just sort of sends a bad message to the rest of the team. So
I can't imagine being a team member on that HR team.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really.
And I feel bad because I feel like this little snippet might have really ruined that person's career. So that's like the hard part. I'm not sure if the CEO will feel the ramifications because I know he's stepped down, he's resigned, but I feel like he'll get another job as a CEO, but I'm not sure if the head of HR will ever get another HR job at least. Like I feel like that's like crossing like a red line of the, job.
It's super hypocritical, right? And
where's the trust?
Yeah.
Back to the trust
Yeah.
word,
The other thing is that, by the way, historically, meeting in the workplace was very, very common.
It is common.
It is
I gotta
still
be
common.
honest.
And
Yeah.
it's, it can be a really great place to meet someone.
Absolutely.
Because after you graduate college, the opportunities that you have to really get to know someone on a personal, even platonic level before, crossing that romantic line becomes more and more rare. And so I was actually looking at some stats, and in 1990, 20% of people met through work, second only to meeting through friends. And according to a Pew study in 2023, it was only 6%. And if you think about it, given, in a heteronormative world, the workplace is more gender balanced now. So that should really have increased, not decreased. And there's more apparently relationships that start at work when they're consensual and when they're not, infidelity are much more likely to lead to marriage. So career builder, I don't know how they got the stat, but the stat was 31% of relationships that start at work lead to marriage. And so, there's a lot to it. It's like you kind of, if there's chemistry before going on the first date. All that being said, like, especially as now a CEO and founder, work has to be a safe place.
Right, exactly.
And I do think there are a lot of concerns around people who are, different levels or in a reporting line.
Right, exactly. So in a reporting line, it can be difficult. But I feel like, that's why people are sometimes scared to report it at work. But I think mostly that is supposed to be in order to kind of out the relationship early on so that there's no whispering behind people's backs. There's no thought that somebody is getting benefits out of the relationship that is unfair. So the idea of like reporting it is ostensibly to like help that. And I should say that also within the company that, that I worked at for many, many years at BrainPop, we had a bunch of marriages happen. And I was like, on some level, I was quelling because I thought it was so nice.
If you think about what that means, you fostered an environment and a culture where people were challenged by each other, felt this chemistry. A lot of marriages working well together.
Exactly.
So,
felt a shared vision that they were working towards or whatever, all that stuff that it's like basically the reasons why we love to sometimes, go to work because we feel engaged is the same thing that can help us get engaged. I'm kidding. Sorry.
Yes. And
I can't help a good pun,
This astronomer episode, I think, is like regressive to that.
Yeah. But at least, astronomer, we didn't know that name. All of a sudden, everybody knows the company now. So that's an interesting little side advantage of the whole thing. Thank you, Lian, for your take on this. And let's remember not to embrace next time we go to a concert together. How's that? But now it's time to go on a quick break. When we come back, we have a question from a listener who's recently been promoted and isn't sure how they feel about it. See you after the break. Hey, quick break from AI. If you're enjoying Workplace Weirdness and you're thinking, wow, it's comforting to know other people's jobs are just as messy as mine, do us a favor. Follow the show, leave a review, or share this episode with the one coworker who would absolutely get it. New episodes drop every other Wednesday, and we've got more cringy emails, baffling bosses, and anonymous confessions coming your way. This is your safe space to laugh about the weird stuff work throws at you. Stay weird. Now, back to the episode. Welcome back to Workplace Weirdness. Before we get to our listener questions, I want to mention that if you have a workplace question, please go to our website at workplace-weirdness.com and click on Share Your Story. We'd love to hear from you. I'm here with matchmaking app Loops CEO and founder, Lian Zucker. We've got a listener who has zero problem saying no, but their colleagues somehow don't seem to hear it. Let's check it out. Hello, Workplace Weirdness. I'm a pretty introverted person and genuinely enjoy keeping work and my personal life separate. But my coworkers are constantly inviting me to happy hours, group lunches, and random after-work hangouts. I've said no politely a bunch of times, but now I have two coworkers who constantly joke around with me about how I never come out and how I'm such a mystery. I don't want to be rude, but I also don't want to go. How do I set a boundary without making things weird or becoming the office loner?
I can totally understand wanting to have boundaries between work and personal. That said, it is important to have a personal rapport with people who you work with. You know, you want people to give you the benefit of the doubt, and having people know a little bit about who you are as a person rather than just coworker employee is helpful. So my advice would be push yourself, especially if they're kind of making comments like this, push yourself to engage. And I think you could still do so in a way that kind of upholds your wanting to have a separate personal and professional life. For example, maybe you say, and I wouldn't say this out loud to them, but in your head, I would say, okay, I'll be out, but I won't drink. Yeah. So like that is just one example, right? But like the boundary can be more around time. Like you'll go and you'll leave at X hour or whatever. But I would make an effort. I think there's a way for whoever you are to do so in a way that really shows your coworkers that you care about them and you enjoy working with them and you want to and you respect them, and that, you know, you could probably dispel this whole like mystery, because maybe they feel like you have something to hide when in fact it sounds like you don't. You just kind of have a social life that you want to keep separate.
I mean, I agree with you, but I also think that the ship has already sailed on having the reputation as the weird person who doesn't go out. Like, I think it's happening already. Like, I have to say.
Do you think it's irredeemable?
I don't think it's irredeemable, but I just think like, own it. Like, that's who you are. Like, what's the big deal? Like, that's part of it. But also there is a way. So let's say, you know, your suggestion is basically, yes, they should go out.
Make an effort.
Like, make an effort.
Once.
Okay. My suggestion is more like, okay, you really don't want to go because it sounds like this is like a really hard red line for this listener. I say the whole idea of going out is basically for connection, for showing a little bit of vulnerability to the team, to the people who are around you. They probably want you to come because they like you and they want to get to know you better. But if you absolutely don't want to go out, like I would try to do some of that at work. Like I'd tell some more stories. I'd make sure that I was like more involved and drop some hints about your sort of out of work life. Maybe not like oversharing, but just being friendly in that way. I also think that if it's seriously like a red line that you don't want to cross, giving some sort of reasoning, like explaining, like, so sometimes people fall into the trap of not wanting to go to a work event. So they'll make up an excuse like, today I have to walk my dog. Tomorrow I have to wash my hair. The next day my kid has something. And then it's like, I kind of...
Like, how many dogs do you have?
Exactly. It like eats away at the trust.
Yeah.
So it's almost better if this person feels this strongly to say, listen, guys, I'm not a goer-outer. I don't do that. That's like not my thing. Or I need my me time. Or I don't know, I like to go to sleep real early. So sorry. But I definitely think that what you're missing by not going out is the social capital and the social grease that can build. So I'm basically agreeing with you. Like, if they can go out, great. But if they can't go out, like, at least be really clear and firm on why you can't go out or what the thing is. And then try to like be more friendly in the office is kind of my take on it. That's my feeling. So good luck, listener. I hope that you're able to lean into the joke. You have to fight for your right to not party. Okay, let's go to the next listener question. Our next listener question is from a new manager who isn't sure they're in the right role. Let's find out. Hello, Maya. I recently got promoted into my first management role, leading a small customer support team at a fast-growing SaaS company. Honestly, I feel like I'm faking it most days. I'm constantly second-guessing my decisions and worried I'm not providing enough guidance or support to my team. Recently, I got some tough feedback from my manager saying I come across as indecisive and that my team feels like they don't have clear direction. Is this just a case of fake it till you make it, or maybe I'm just not cut out for managing people? How can I tell if this is a normal part of growing into the role?
I guess, first of all, I would say I think it's really natural to feel like a little bit out of your depth as a new manager in a new position, especially in a fast growing startup where goals are often shifting and the way that kind of processes are changing, et cetera. I would guess that many people around you are faking it or feeling like they have to fake it till they make it.
Right.
It's really a luxury that you got this feedback so early. I would dig in. I would say, hey, I think like hearing feedback like that is something that can really, whenever I've gotten feedback like that, it's something that I'm really happy to hear because it's actionable, right? I would really sit down with your manager and say, thank you so much for sharing with me. Can we please like get into it a little bit? Why do you think my team is feeling this way? Also, direction usually comes from a manager. And so maybe there's a conversation around, okay, like what are we trying to solve for? What is our goal? Let's make sure that we're aligned.
Amen. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
I would view this as a positive thing, as a growth opportunity, but also as an opportunity to like really level set with your manager and be like, okay, this is the goal. In order to achieve the goal, I want to do A, B, C. Are we aligned? Okay. And in order to do A, B, C, this is how I'm going to have my team execute.
I would even say, though, before even going back to the manager and requesting the feedback, I think this listener, I think you need a minute with yourself. I think maybe part of the reason why you feel like you're indecisive and that your team has no direction is because that's the feedback that you got. You literally got the same feedback of the way that you're feeling. You're feeling flustered. So there is something to this feedback. You even kind of said it yourself in your note. But sit with yourself for a second. And even before approaching the manager or your teammates to figure out what the direction is, I think this person needs to take a minute and remember that they don't have to make decisions like flustered and without balance. They almost need to figure out for themselves what they want, then talk to the manager, get a lot of feedback from their environment. I agree with you that manager probably has the key to where the company is going and what kinds of things they want to see from the team. So that's already very actionable because you can base your direction on that. And then as far as like appearing decisive or being decisive, not just appearing decisive, it's about knowing like what the direction is and sort of sticking with it and communicating it really clearly. So saying like, the decision is XYZ, or I've decided this and this, or like, I've heard all of your opinions. This is my decision. So there's ways to communicate it, and communicating it over and over again is also quite necessary, but also don't let, things that come up fluster you, dear listener, and like sort of stick to your macro decision. Obviously, you want to remain flexible if like you can pivot if there's, curveballs are thrown your way. But as far as like that North Star kind of direction, it's an important thing to sort of stick to it and not be like flip-floppy about that kind of stuff.
Totally.
And then you can be stronger in communicating those needs out. So as ironic as that sounds, it's a lot about like quelling your anxiety and quelling that, that voice in your head that's telling you that you can't, because you can, of course you can. Also, it sounds like you've also not been on this job too long. Give yourself some time, please. Yes. Be kind to yourself the way you would be kind to your teammates and your people who you oversee. And, fake it till you make it is not about just like being fake. It's about stepping into a role a little bit above, punching a little higher than your weight. But when we do that consistently, we just arrive at our goal, Yeah. So because I believe that you're not born a manager, you have to work to be a manager. I hope you can make space for that personal growth.
True, you learn by doing.
Exactly. Listener, I want to just tell you that I really feel for you because we've all been there. Just remember that feedback is there to make you stronger. Lean into it, and it should be good. And I'm flustered right now, but I'm going to think of everything I want to say.
You're going to work through it.
And I'm going to just go through it. Exactly. Thank you, Lian. Love that input. And now we move on to those awkward office flirtations. Every week we cover one question addressing the kind of cringeworthy work event that'll make you wish you were at a Coldplay concert. Dear Workplace Weirdness, I'm a married woman in my 40s, and there's this guy on my team in his 20s who I swear was flirting with me, lingering by my desk, complimenting my outfits, calling me cool mom hot.
Oh, no.
And once saying if I were his boss, he'd never want to work from home. I started flirting back. Light touches on the arm, teasing him about being a baby for not knowing who Meg Ryan is, laughing a little too hard. But the second I leaned in, he disappeared. No more desk chats, no more eye contact. He even switched lunch hours. I feel like he gaslit me. Why is it that as soon as I start flirting back with him, he retracted? Lian, what do you think this listener should actually do?
Tough love moment. Allow me. 2 wrongs don't make a right. This was inappropriate work behavior. And it sounded like in the beginning it made her feel uncomfortable. Right? And I think that was a really good instinct. Why it happened, was it right for it to happen? That's almost moot at this point.
Right.
I feel like you decided to go along with it, and then it either spooked him or, maybe he wasn't really intending it to begin with. I think sometimes people kind of want to flatter or suck up to someone who they admire in a work setting, and it can kind of be done in a ham-handed way that comes off as flirtatious, or it was really flirty. I don't know. And honestly, it doesn't matter. It didn't go well. Sounds like it was inappropriate to begin with. So nip it in the bud, move on. Don't think about why he's gaslighting you or not gaslighting you, into you or not into you. If you want to meet someone, go on Loop. It might take a little bit of focus, but just try to be really work-oriented and professional and move on.
I gotta agree with you here. It's funny because I think she says she's married.
Oh my gosh.
So don't come on Loop.
So don't come on Loop. Yes.
I mean,
I missed that.
I felt like as I was reading this, I was like, why do you care that he's flirting with you? Because I mean, it's inappropriate behavior. It's not like going to help. And what's interesting is I almost thought like he might have even thought that it was like a tactic. Like you were coming on strong the way he was coming on strong to kind of like scare him away. That was my like hot take on it. Kind of. Oh, I should also ask, do you work for HR? Is this like a new trend?
We really have to take marriage seriously. And I think like maybe a question to ask yourself is if you're happy in the marriage. But even if you're not, the answer is not to flirt with someone at work or to reciprocate flirtation, whatever it may be.
And then another like, we weren't there. We don't know. We're just hearing from you, listener, but kind of feel like perhaps this was not as deep a flirtation as she thinks. Maybe it was more like, kind of like a light kind of like, I don't know if manipulation is the right word, but like a way to like get things to go his way. Like maybe he needed something done for a deadline and just was like, oh, like throwing a few nice words her way in order to like sort of grease the wheels, but probably didn't have the experience in order to understand like where the boundaries of that are. That's maybe my take on it. Kind of hard to know. I do want to say that we're not more accustomed to answering like work questions, not so much like relationships.
Nip it in the bud, introspection.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Those are my 3.
I agree with you. Nip it in the bud and then just like ask yourself, like, what were you looking for when you returned those flirtations? Like, what do you need?
Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Exactly. Were you interested in having, a workplace romance affair? So, listener, maybe we should just say, like, maybe it's time to go see a marriage counselor.
Yes.
And go easy on the office flirting in the future. Actually, believe it or not, that's our show today, Lian. Yeah. I want to thank you. Any last thoughts before we go our separate ways today?
Oh my gosh.
And where can our listeners find you? I want to know.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much and the team for having me. It was really fun and refreshing conversation. Give Loop a try and share it with your friends.
Where can people download the app?
Yes, you can download the app from the Apple and Google Play Store. Our website is loopmein.me. Please also follow us on social media. Our Instagram handle is Loop Matchmaking. And you never know what introduction you can either make for a friend or someone you care about or who you could meet.
Well, thank you. Yes. And honestly, it's been really refreshing for me too. Both we learned about startup culture, work culture, values of working with family and all that good stuff. So thank you for that perspective.
Thank you so much, Maya.
Yeah, it was really fun. We'll be back soon with more Workplace Weirdness. If you've enjoyed our dive into the strange and funny side of office life, don't forget to subscribe. And if you've got some weirdness in the workplace, please go to our website at workplace-weirdness.com and click on Share Your Story. We might feature your question in an upcoming episode. This is Maya Kanar-Kowalski reminding you to embrace the quirks and make the most out of the office chaos. In the meantime, keep working and whenever possible, stay weird. Today's show is produced by me, Maya Kadar-Kowalski, and Felicia Wang, and written by Dana Burnell-Lowe. Molly Citram is our content curator. Thanks to Billy Samoa Salivi and the rest of the team at Podify who helped engineer this episode, and the wonderful team at Podstream who helped us tape in their studios. Thanks also to Lian Zucker for joining us on today's episode, and thanks to you for listening to Workplace Weirdness. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for another breakdown of all things weird from a workplace near you.